Welcome to another edition of the Art Marketing Podcast. And today I am joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Mathieu Laca. Mathieu, how you doing?
Very good, very good. Thank you, Patrick.
No, it's a pleasure to have you. Thanks for coming on. So I wanted to talk about this print giveaway contest. We had a bit of a contest, huh?
Yeah. It worked really well.
I think it worked really well too. So everyone's going to wonder who you are that hasn't checked out your site or taken a look at your work. So why don't you spend a brief few minutes and give us the Mathieu Laca origin story? Where are you from? What do you do? You like dogs or cats? And how you feeling today?
Well, very well. I'm a bit like on a cloud right now because I had a really successful show in Montreal. We sold a lot of works, and it was a pretty amazing experience because we sold really large ones. So I mainly paint portraits, but I also paint animals and other scenes with a lot of figures. But I'm a figurative painter, and I tend to put a lot of impasto on my paintings. And you really have to see them to understand, because I have trouble describing them. I've been painting for 18 years. I live in Montreal, in Quebec, Canada, and things have been growing really fast for me in the last years. This week I raised the prices, and I don't know. It's very exciting. Of course, it's a lot of work, but I really enjoy it, and it's like a dream come true for me. Yeah.
Well, huge congratulations on all of that. Sounds like you're an 18-year overnight success. So congrats, congrats on all of that. So I don't know. Did you listen to the podcast episode, by the way, the last one?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I really liked it. I'm gonna comment later. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you comment later. So anyway, I think most people are coming into the frame of mind, and I think I said on that episode, obviously you heard me say, like, I want to get your perspective on everything that you had to do from your side of things. And, just to set the table a little bit, I basically ran the paid traffic. I ran the setup of the ManyChat, which was, all first time for me. That was like the first time going through ManyChat and making that whole sequence. Mathieu had to do, you had to write all the copy in both languages, right? Which was, and by the way, I learned there's a whole other thing we can do about segmenting the language. Facebook actually has that built in, so we didn't know that at the time. But you had to write all the copy in both French and English, and then you had to do a number of different videos in French and English. But that's just the start of it. So I do want to focus, because I made it such a theme, on like all the hustle and all the work that you did. And I want people to really wrap their head around it, as well as myself, discover what that looked like from like an hour commitment. So I do want to start there. But where I want to like really start is, okay, so that contest wrapped up. We haven't spoken all that much since then. What if any feedback did you get after the whole thing was over that I haven't heard about yet, and just feedback in general?
Well, people liked it. People thanked me for that contest, that draw. And it's a bit ridiculous because I just gave away one print for, I don't know, $40 or something. So, but it's just a way to share your work with a lot of people, making yourself known, and having the goal of, our goal was to have subscribers, and
right.
And also ultimately having print orders. But it's really like, I don't know, it's not a trap because people like it, but for our perspective, it's a bit like a trap. We set this up and people fall into it, and it's great. I mean, they thank you for it.
Yeah, the whole thing is amazing like that, and we can get into the trap aspects of it. I mean, the trap makes it sound like mischievous or devious or whatever, which is not.
No, but it's
the trap is just effective marketing, right? But
yeah. It's really clear, what it is, and you say it. This is a bot sequence, and you're talking to a robot. If you have any questions, just type them, and then I come in and I tap. Okay, this is the real me talking, and so a lot of people they really liked it. They liked the sequence. a few got stuck, because people are not used to, pressing buttons in Messenger.
Oh, I've seen so much of that since. Like there's a
Yeah,
small portion of the population that just has no idea what to do in these things.
yeah, yeah. So I had to write, you have to press on the buttons, but overall, people really got it, and the feedback was great. They enjoyed it, and it a lot of conversations started with after the robot sequence. People told me, I really like your work. For instance, I like Van Gogh. What a great painter! I saw the movie Loving Van Gogh. Blah blah blah. So I got into it, and exchanged a few ideas, and there are so many diverse people in there. People ask me for advice on their own work because they were artists.
Hmm.
Collectors also in there, very interested in my work, looking to buy. There were people who bought prints, people I know for a long time, and new people. I was really surprised on the ad that you did, Patrick, how many Asians liked it. It was like totally enormous, the amount of Asians. I couldn't explain it. I mean, you said that,
That is weird. I gotta go back and look at the statistics on that.
yeah, well, it's just a detail. It's not that important, but it surprised me.
Yeah, that's an interesting learning. Let me ask you this. So, to go back to something you said earlier, which I think was a big eye opener, and I definitely alluded to this in the previous episode. And I'm getting feedback. I think I'm coming out of your speaker a little bit. Um, I don't know if that's on purpose or what, but the we said early on like we're going for subscriptions, and then I said early on too like, hey, we're really trying to get as many print sales out of this as possible. But it really was those conversations, wasn't it? I mean, that ended up being the biggest win by far. Those
Yeah.
conversations that you had were insane.
Yes, yes. It's when people relate to you because they exchange a few words and few impressions.
Hmm.
They come to trust you, and I mean, trust is the basis. If you want to sell works, people have to trust you because if they talk to you, it's because they like your work already. But when they talk to you, they exchange, that conversations lead to trust, and this is making warm traffic into burning traffic.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, it was sort of insane too to see the volume. Now, I think that's an important aspect too to touch on too, because I think you know I'm going to be hammering this thing for the foreseeable future. And when I say this thing, messenger bots, specifically the Facebook contest, because I think it's like, I've ranted and raved about it, but I'm not going to stop ranting and raving about it because it's just, I mean, this thing is Christmas morning on how effective it is.
Mhm.
But I really wanted to frame up and get, directly out of your mouth. So we did this, I can't even remember however many days it was, or 6 or 7 or 8 days.
Uh,
And,
yeah, it was like something like 6 days. Yeah.
six days. So I mentioned in the previous episode that you responded to every single solitary comment. I mentioned in the previous episode that you responded to every single solitary chat you had inside of ManyChat. Give me, because I mean, I haven't even asked you since. I'm actually curious. Give me your gut sense on like how intense was that? How many people? How much time did it take you to respond to everybody?
Yeah, it was pretty intense. I mean, at the end of the day, when I really had a huge headache. I mean, because responding is, even though it's just an emoji, you have to read and you have to think, who's that person and what is she expecting, and is there something, what should I do? You have to ask yourself these questions for each answer you give. So the image you use of speed dating with 400 people is totally accurate. I mean, um, it was
Yeah, that
really,
honestly, that's what it felt like observing it. But I do give you. I mean, I said it in the other episode. I do give you a tremendous amount of props because I didn't, I wasn't telling you like, hey, you have to respond to every single solitary person, and you responded. I mean, if you looked at the podcast landing page, I actually like made a video like, there he is responding again and again and again and again. But man, the the bond that creates, even just responding to every single solitary comment and making that many people feel important, in addition to those actual conversations that you were having, I think is amazing. And also too, and by the way, I think I've since found out, I still have to do my homework on this, but I've since found out that I think it is actually a violation of Facebook's policy to require tag people to enter, right?
Well,
Would,
was that a requirement, or you just ask people to do it?
Well, yeah, we asked people to do it, and
Well,
no, it wasn't a requirement. It wasn't a requirement to enter. But let's not give away all the tricks just yet. But because they would get entered, regardless. But I don't want to talk about that. But I guess from Facebook's standpoint, like I'm gonna ask I got a Facebook gal that I have calls with because we spend on ads, and I'll ask her whether or not it truly is. But like right after we ran your contest, it worked so well. I went and ran one for Art Storefronts, and we gave away like software for a year, and we did the same thing, and we didn't get in trouble, and no one called us out. I think it's they leave it up to be probably a gray area. I think in both your case and in Art Storefronts' case, people had such a wonderful time with it. No one was going to complain or get us banned, but I don't want to leave the impression that they can do it. But where I was going with all of that is that, like, you got a tremendous amount of first time people that saw you and entered after they got tagged. And I thought that was pretty striking too. So it really,
yeah,
using that technique was really effective at like first time, people being exposed to your brand and to your work.
yeah, that was incredible, and it reached a lot of people that we wouldn't have reached without that tagging technique. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I thought so too, which was really quite striking. If you had to do what we were doing at that clip, and granted it was new, so the excitement level was probably higher than it would be normally. But if you had to do that every single solitary week, would it crush you too much?
Yes. I wouldn't answer every single comment,
Yeah.
but I would get an assistant do it for me.
Yeah, that's a hard line to cross. Like, because how does it appear to be you and authentic versus not? We've sort of settled at the 1 month technique. But one thing while we're still on the subject that I thought was very interesting that I want to point out to the listeners, which I just want to have you speak on because I thought it was a pretty interesting tactic, is so the way that it works is you enter the contest. For someone that hasn't seen this, they enter the contest and then they basically just get put into like a chat window. And when you say a chat window, think like Slack or Skype or Instant Messenger, whatever chat window you use. You're essentially engaged in that type of a conversation. And I'm monitoring the contest from afar. And so every once in a while, I'm just making sure that people are flowing through, the ManyChat calls them flows, but flowing through the flows and everything's working and there's no bugs or typos. There's always typos with me. And I saw you engaged in some of these conversations, and I thought it was really interesting because you had this one conversation with presumably what was a collector, and I might have mentioned this in the earlier piece. And I loved that you went to the sale right away, and I popped into the conversation, and I remember seeing, hey, I love this piece of work, and you're like, yeah, I'm sorry, it's sold. And then you offered up another piece of work that you had. And he's like, nah, I've never liked that guy, but I really liked this guy. So if you paint him again, let me know. And you immediately went to the sale and you're like, can I consider that a commission? And I remember being so proud of you because it's like you were really, really pushing for the sale. But is that a normal part of your technique, asking like that and going for that? And how often are you having conversations like that?
Well, I know this guy was on my collector's email list. I know his name.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know him personally, but I know his name. So I knew that he was really interested in my work. And when people are really interested, it's just a matter of finding the right fit for them, like the one painting that will totally satisfy them. So, and he really had a crush on two paintings that I already had sold, and this happens a lot. So what happens is that with these people, I just offer them, what subject do you want me to paint? What can I do? You're just on there's just an inch before he buys. So it's really it's really a matter of pushing them, so they commit. That's it. So, but I'm sure he didn't buy, but I'm sure he will buy in the next weeks or months, or in my next show or whatever. Because and these people, I email them if I have new works, and just to be sure that they see everything. So it's not a technique I use with everyone, but when people are
Mm-hmm.
that interested, and that I know that they have the money, and they really want to collect. They're collectors basically. So when I know these
Yeah.
people, I just try to find a way to have a relationship with them, and to make sure that they see every new work that I paint.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was awesome. And I think, I think the sales portion, let alone the marketing portion, that's hard for a lot of artists, right? Like, in terms of just how it shakes out or how their brains are wired. I mean, I don't even know if it's just like a construct and everybody's bought into it, but it seems to be an area that a lot of them struggle with. So it was interesting to see you in that mode and do that. And I think,
Well,
I
if
think that's going to
I
continue
had
to
any
benefit.
advice to give to other artists, would be to always keep in mind your interests, but to do it in a casual way. That's my advice.
Yeah. I think that's really solid advice. And to that effect, I'm curious because I like how you break down your interest groups, and I think it's a subject I'm interested in delving into more. So it's a little bit of a tangent, but anybody that watched or listened to the first podcast on this, I put links in there that show you links. I didn't talk about this, but I put links that show you the flow, like the mind
Mhm.
map looking thing that routes everybody through. And what Matthew and I decided to do based on our conversations is he's always thought very seriously about who his collectors are, right? And versus call it just fans. But one area he's not thought very seriously about is the print side of his business, right? And would you
Yeah,
would you say
that's
that's the
totally
truth?
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for me,
And
prints were always like
it
a way to
good.
promote, like giveaways, and my markup was so ridiculously low that it wasn't, something that I thought of would be interesting to sell. It was just a way of promoting myself. But with that ManyChat draw and contest, I got a lot of orders,
Mhm.
and I'm thinking more of considering the prints as well. Also, my originals, the price is higher, so prints become more interesting for people who are not able to buy originals. Sorry, to buy originals. So
Yeah, and that's where I was going with it. And it's like if you one, it's going to be different for everybody depending on the kind of business they have, right? Like some people are just prints in the sense of like photographers, and some are just originals, and some aren't doing prints at all. And I think like the print, well, for me, the print portion of it is irrelevant, right? What I find fascinating, and by the way, especially for you, I mean, your stock and trade is paint that comes like an inch and a half
yeah,
off the canvas, right? That's pretty doggone hard. That's pretty doggone hard to duplicate
yeah,
in
it's
in a
impossible.
print fashion, right? Like that's a completely different product. But I think what's interesting about it is, I mean, I'm 20 episodes into this podcast. What do I bang on about all damn day on this podcast is how difficult it is to get attention, how difficult it is to create fans and followers. And if you're going to create this attention and all of these fans and followers, and they're going to come to your website, and the cheapest item that you have in your store is like 500 or 750 or $1,000, well, then there's a whole bunch of people that you're
Yeah,
missing out on, right? Like I don't even care if it's a print side of the business, or if you're selling t-shirts or mouse pads or iPhone cases or whatever kind of thing it is. It's less for me about the item as it is about the price point, right? And so to go back to where this whole thing started, in Matthew's case study, we had a survey after we announced the winner, right? And in terms of the contest, like that is like the most valuable message you could send. Like, here's who won the contest. I mean, talk about 100% open rate. That's the one. That's the highest open rate you get. So it makes a lot of sense to ask some questions. And so we asked some questions, and he was able, through some tags, and you can see the flow. It's in that first episode, I mean, you can actually look at it. We asked whether or not they were interested in prints or originals, and we segmented people out. And so now Matthew's got this list in ManyChat with people that are tagged, and he can, message and speak to the people that like prints differently from the ones that like originals. And it's not to say that there won't be crossover, but I think, one, I think that should become a very interesting part of your business. Two, I want to see you expand it. And I think just going forward, the critical part of having those various different price points, which, by the way, even though you just raised all your prices, well done. But I think having those different price points, and having that diversification it's critical for survival.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a good move. I just had to raise my markups because, before I found it was a bit ridiculous because I was selling paintings for, let's say, 3,000, and then I was selling prints for, $50, and I was doing like 10 or $5 for each print. And just the amount of accounting that I had to do for when I sold prints was enough to discourage me to sell them. But now that prices are a bit higher, so it becomes more interesting. And if I can sell a good amount, it will become interesting. Also, the originals being more expensive, probably more people will buy prints because I'm starting to refuse, people who commission me small portraits. They want to pay with installments for a year. That's impossible right now. So all these people will end up buying prints in the future, I think.
Yeah, it ends up becoming like, a beachhead, right? I don't know if that translates properly to French, but it's like you eventually want that original hanging on their wall. Well, let me tell you, there's no better way than getting into the game, right? It's like buying the starter house, outside of town a little bit. It's not really where you want to be yet, but it gets you in the game. It allows you to level up, and then eventually you get that big sale.
Yeah.
Well, I think all of that's fantastic. I think we can reveal offline that it's pretty much time to double down and go right back into the next contest, which I know we're excited to give it another shot and continue to learn and see, because I think there's even more tradecraft that can go into it. But I think relative to me pitching this, and you could say honestly or not. I mean, don't let me influence you. But based on everything that you've seen from that technique and running it, would you strongly recommend other artists give it a shot and go through the learning curve of learning how to do it?
Absolutely. I mean, for years, I worked on newsletters, and it's a lot of work to build a newsletter so it looks nice and everything. And this is the work is similar, but it's so instantaneous. And you reach so many people right away. I mean, the open rate, it's amazing. It's 100%.
I know.
That's awesome. I mean, and it's new also. People are not used to it, so they open it, they answer, they react. So totally. I totally recommend it. It's important to learn that technique.
Yeah, the arbitrage it's for sure there because it's so new. People don't know what it is. As a final question, have you sent any broadcasts to the list after the fact?
You mean after we revealed the winner?
Yeah, after we did the contest, did you send any broadcasts?
Well, I sent just a Merry Christmas message with images from my exhibition and a link to my website. I think something really, just a way of reminding people of my show and of me, So that's what I
got it.
Very simple.
And how did it go? Did you get any good feedback? Were there more conversations?
Well, it was not really as engaging as the previous broadcasts, but I got feedback too. It's just a way of keeping in touch and reminding people that you exist and of what you're doing.
Got it. Love it. Well, I'm gonna continue hammering it. Obviously, we're gonna double down and go right back into it. And we've been talking out loud about what the right cadence is for this, and given your workload, like I certainly think the soft target is 1 a month and see where it goes. But
Yeah.
the bigger you can get that list, the more you can broadcast to it. I think the more powerful it's going to end up being. As a final, unless you have any final statements to wrap it up, where do you want people to find you online?
My website, well, Instagram is really, really kicking ass. I get so many
Nice.
inquiries on Instagram. It's incredible. I really love it. So just follow me on Instagram.
Okay, and I'll put a link to your
My website.
profile, because
Okay.
you spell Mathieu in the French fashion.
Mathieu Laca.
Yeah, I mean, I can't spell that Matthew thing. It's just too weird for me. I make typos on it all the time. But honestly, thank you very much for coming on for the time. Congratulations on all your success, and look forward to getting you on a future episode.
Thank you, Patrick, and thanks a lot for your work. I mean, you did work a lot for this, and it paid off. And I'm really, really glad you did, because well, it will pay off in the future, and it already pays off. So thanks.
Oh, for sure. It's my pleasure. All right. Have a great day.
You too.